Hi guys, so welcome to another session of Ask Us Anything with featuring University of Essex. So Essex is, I think, one of my favorite universities. We work with them very, very closely. I am Tarun. I'm just going to give a brief introduction about myself. I'm Tarun. I'm working at Leverage Edu, and Leverage Edu is India's most trusted university admissions service. So any student who is looking to explore going abroad, studying abroad, we are definitely the ones to get in touch with. So I have Afshana with me today, who is the regional officer for University of Essex. Um, I'm going to let her give a brief introduction about herself and maybe a bit about Essex. And after that, we have received a lot of questions from our students, and we will be asking her all of those questions.
Thank you so much, Tarun. Very good evening, everyone. I'm really, glad to be a part of this session today. Like Tarun already mentioned, my name is Afshana Hoque. I'm the regional officer for University of Essex. I'm currently based out of Delhi. If I have to tell you a little bit about Essex, there's so many things that I can add, but I would just say it's one of the most, highest ranking universities in the UK. We are spread across 3 campuses, one in Colchester, South End, as well as Loughton. We are very popular for our business programs, our engineering department, as well as our department of mathematics. And today, yes, I am looking forward to all the questions that you all have. I'm hoping to, give you as much information as possible so that you can actually take a very informed decision when it comes to your further studies.
Thank you so much. So I'll move on with some of the questions. So some of the questions are mostly related to the current intake in terms of admissions requirements, and as well as the deadlines as such. And then we'll move on to some other questions. So the first question is, are admissions for postgraduate programs at Essex open for the current upcoming intake in 2021? So the September 2021 intake, are we still accepting applications?
So majority of our programs are still open, and you are, still allowed to apply for it. However, we are, our intake is actually October, unlike many. So our classes start in the month of October. We are still accepting applications, but if you are someone who's planning to join us in October, you need to apply right away. I mean, don't waste even one single day, apply right away, because it's a process that includes, the application process, then you hear back from us, then you basically signed your, basically accept your offer. And then there's the entire process of the CAS being released, because without the CAS, you can't apply for a UK visa. So if you're planning to join us in October, this is high time you need to apply at the earliest.
Yes, and seats are also filling up very, very fast. So I guess you've already answered this second question, which is when should I start my application process, and what is the ideal timeline for September 2021 intake, January intake 2022? So maybe you could also elaborate on what would be the, when would Jan 2022 open up, and what would be the application process for that?
Okay. So yeah, that's actually a very good question. So for now, we are currently also accepting applications for Jan. So it's not that you cannot apply for Jan intake right now, you can. However, to kind of give you an idea, the ideal timeline would be to start preparing for the application 1 year prior. So if you're planning to join us in our major intake, which is the month of October, you want to start getting everything ready by the November of the previous year. And the same goes for January as well. But at present, if you're someone who's looking to apply for January 2022, we are accepting applications. You are free to apply.
Okay, great. The main intakes, from what I understand, is September is obviously the major intake, and then we have the Jan intake, which is the minor intake for most UK universities. So does that mean that students will have slightly fewer programs to select from for January, or is it?
Right, absolutely, that's correct. So our major intake is our October intake. However, we have recently started with the Jan intake as well. So we have a list of programs that are available in Jan. If you want, I can take out that list for you. Otherwise, the students can absolutely reach out to the advisors at Leverage, or they can reach out to us directly, and we can give them an idea of what all programs are available in the Jan intake.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm gonna move on to a slightly different sort of question. So this question is related to research projects. So somebody has asked, can you elaborate on the research projects under the Department of Life Science? I wish to pursue my master's in biochemistry at the university.
Okay, yeah. So our School of Life Sciences that actually includes, some of the different areas like biomedical sciences, marine biology, genetics, genomics, biochemistry, and biology. Biological sciences. When it comes to biology, in particular, we are ranked 10th in the UK. And just if you talk about the 2020 employment rate, we have been able to get an 89% employment rate. And why this is
Wow.
important is because 2020 as a year has not been great for many. With the pandemic going on, it's been really tough in the industry for employment. However, for Essex graduates, we have got an 89% outcome employment rate in the year 2020. Apart from that, if you talk about the different kind of researches, there are many. I would actually recommend students going into the profiles of the faculties of that specific, department. They'll kind of get an idea of what kind of research each faculty is undergoing at the moment. However, majority of our lecturers, that is our faculty, are active researchers. So that means the kind of classes that are being taught or the kind of research that are being done are extremely up to date. At the top of my head, I can think of our study in the field of enzymes and how enzymes may be used for antibiotic resistance. Or for instance, we're also studying into we're looking into how to stop cancer cells from forming, or we're also looking into developing better crops for the society. And yeah, similar areas like that. But if you want to kind of get a better idea of the kind of researches each faculty is doing, when you go to a specific program, you will see, like, for instance, you go to the life science department and you go to whatever specific biochemistry the student is asking. So let me remind you that we don't have a solid MSc in biochemistry. We do have other programs. Like, for instance, we have our doctoral program in biochemistry, which is extremely popular. Otherwise, you can always go for MSc in biotechnology. We can also go for MSc in cancer biology and things like that. But if you go to the specific program and you go to the structure section of that specific program, it will lead you to the list of modules. And if you click on the list of modules, you will see the professors who are teaching that specific module. You click on the name of the professor, you get to their entire profile. So you kind of understand your professors better, you understand what kind of research they are doing, and you then get to make a very informed decision because you understand whether that research is something that you feel connected to or not. So I think that would be a better option.
Wow, that sounds really good. So can somebody actually mail the professor? Like if say I wanted to do some research in something, can I actually mail some of the professors myself? Like is their email address available as well?
Absolutely. So for especially for Essex students, we have an open door policy when it comes to interacting with faculties. However, even for our prospective students who have not yet joined, the professor's email, their details are always mentioned on the website. They can definitely reach out. Just my advice would be to keep the email as polite as possible, because and try and get to the point as to what exactly are they looking for, and be less transactional. And I'm sure they will get a response back from them.
Great. So the next question is, what are the basic requirements for studying at the university?
Yeah, so this is pretty straightforward. Like, for instance, if we have Indian students who are, or students from, India, Nepal, Bangladesh, and other neighboring countries. So we're basically looking for instance, bachelors. So the undergraduate programs, we're looking for a 75% minimum in the class 12, which is a combination of the 4 subjects in class 12. And if you're applying for your master's program, we're looking for a successful completion of your bachelor's. Now, in India, we are aware that our universities are, categorized into 3 different areas, which is tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. So if you're from a tier 1 university, we're looking at a minimum of 52% for you to be eligible to apply. Otherwise, if you're from a tier 2 and 3, we're looking for a 55%. And the equivalent, CGPA as well. We also have our English requirement, which would be we accept IELTS, we accept Pearson, we require at least an overall of 6.5, with none of the bands being less than 5.5. However, we have some specific programs that might ask you to do a little more better in IELTS, the areas like, especially for liberal arts and sciences, that might require a little bit more understanding of the English language.
Right. And the next question is, so what if what if I am unable to meet the English entry requirements for a program? Like, what are my alternatives?
Yes. So for a student who may not, meet the English requirement, apart from giving the IELTS and the other English language proficiency test, they can go for our pre-sessional programs. So that's, that way they can actually make up for the amount of points that they have lagged back in the IELTS exam.
Okay. And do you guys also offer IELTS waivers? Like, I think a lot of UK universities. Um,
Yes. So for undergraduate students, like students applying for bachelor's, if you are from a CBSE, board, and you have acquired more than 70% in your English, in that case, we can waive the English requirement for IELTS. And for your master's program, it will again depend on the undergraduate or your bachelor's, where you have graduated from, the year that you have graduated from. If it's from a tier 1, we can waive off the IELTS. However, we would require a medium of instruction certificate from that specific university. So it gets a little technical. So if we have a specific profile that you want to discuss, or they can feel free to reach to an advisor and we can explain you better. But yes, we do have IELTS waiver for a few particular cases. It can be basically dealt with once you submit your application and we look into your scores and your profile, we can give you a confirmed answer.
Great. That's awesome. So I think like anybody who has got decent marks in their 12th English, and if they've graduated from a CBSE central board, then definitely I think they have a pretty good chance, as well
Yes.
as if they've recently graduated from a good university again in India, that then there are these options for
Yeah. So CBSE students, if they've got more than 70% and they're applying for our bachelor's, they don't need to give the IELTS, because we understand that they have, strong command over the language. And for students from a tier 1 university, because admission to tier 1 is difficult, and we expect our students from tier 1 to have, good knowledge over the English language. However, the condition is that the scores or their graduation must be within 5 years of the year that they're applying to Essex. So if we have a student from tier 1 who have graduated with very good scores in their bachelor's, but it was 7 to 8 years back, in that case, they will have to give the English test.
Got it. So another question is, what are the most sought after programs at the university, and what is the acceptance rate for them?
Okay, so most sought after programs. So, we have our programs in data science, which is very popular, which tends to do really well and, have a great demand among our students. Also, our program in business analytics, because, again, business analytics is basically combining two of the most major areas, which is business, which is always a field that a student wants to get into, majority of them. And then we have analytics, so they are understanding how to utilize analytical data and basically predict what the market trend is going to be like. So data science, business analytics, AI, artificial intelligence, another important area that we have a high demand for. And apart from these, I can think of is our business programs like our MBM as well as our MBA program. MBM is it's basically a program wherein a student does not require work experience, whereas our MBA, which is MBA accredited, as you know, only 2% of business schools in the entire world gets an MBA accreditation. And University of Essex, our MBA is MBA accredited. So we require a minimum of 3 years of full-time work experience. So a student who has that much experience, I would say even if 3 years, but average experience of our cohort would be 5 years of full-time work experience. And those students who do not have a experience, like a full work experience, they can always go for our MBM program, which is almost a mirror image of the MBA, but it's more of a freshers MBA.
Got it. So one student has asked that I am an international student in my last year of bachelor's. I wish to apply for MA in psychology at the University of Essex. What are my career prospects in London?
So our MA in psychology is a great option for students who may or may not have a prior psychology in their last year of education in bachelor's. Majority of our programs in the Department of Psychology is accredited by the British Psychological Society, and I'm assuming if a student is going to study their psychology postgraduate program in the UK, they definitely want to be a member of the BPS, which they will become once they become a member. Once they start studying our MS in psychology, they become a student member, and on successful completion of the program, they become a member of the BPS. And yes, I think that gives a greater advantage when it comes to their career prospects. Having said about the career prospects, we also have other areas wherein we put a very high focus on students getting practical experience and increasing their chance of employability after they graduate. So we have our employment and career center that assists our students in various ways. Again, the student has to take the initiative. They have to basically keep tracking what kind of events the Employability and Career Center are organizing and be present, register for it. But we do hold a lot of career fairs. We do have different kind of events and master classes that are being done by the department as well, wherein students get introduced to experts in that specific industry, and that because word of mouth and networking is a great tool when it comes to placement, and I think our students get ample amount of opportunities to do that.
Great, great. So I think, yeah, that was also another question. So if you want to expand on this maybe a little bit more, somebody had also asked that one, what kind of career assistance and placements are there at the University of Essex? Will I get any help in finding internships and apprenticeships while studying there?
Yes. So University of Essex, we have a very um, high focus on research, but equally, we also give a lot of importance to practical experience, internships, as well as placements by extension. So when it comes to internships, yes, your department will definitely assist you. They do hold different kind of master classes wherein you have experts from the industry that come in to teach you a specific module or a specific class. That's a great opportunity. You get to meet people from the industry. Having traveled from India, you need that one baby step to get to know people from the industry. And I think those master classes definitely do that. Apart from that, the Employability and Career Center, like I mentioned, they hold different kind of events wherein you get to meet these people, you get to attend different kind of webinars, but the same thing is also done by your specific department as well, be it psychology or any other department in that matter. And then we also have something called the KTP program, which stands for Knowledge Transfer Partnership Program. As part of this program, we have collaborations with big businesses, multinational companies, different organizations, and they, as part of that program, they come on campus and they interact with our students and hire our graduates exclusively for open positions. And apart from that, another area which I think I should mention it here is our Essex Frontrunners program. So Essex Frontrunners program is an initiative taken by the university wherein we reserve a lot of the on-campus jobs. These are skill jobs. So we reserve these jobs for our students, be it domestic students or international. There is no discrimination in that case. Our international students are absolutely eligible to apply for those on-campus jobs. That gives them a good amount of, if they're able to find something which is related to their field, extremely great. Like if you're doing your Masters of Business Management and you are able to somehow get into an on-campus job, which is going to be at 20 hours per week, because legally a student can only work for 20 hours a week if you're a student. So if they're able to get into maybe the marketing department, it's very relevant. It works as their training. It works as something wherein they're getting to utilize what they're learning inside the classroom, and you're also getting paid for it. So I think that's another thing that they can utilize, which is the Essex Frontrunners program, which is basically they're going to be paid for it. So you can always take it as a paid internship.
Great. And this is part of the course, or is this like you have courses which also have a year of placement, which is also part of the program? Is this what this is, or is this something, or is
No,
that also another option that students can?
No. I only mentioned that because just in case. So Essex Frontrunners program is for all. for any student doing any kind of program, be it undergraduate or postgraduate. So
Right.
Essex Fund Runners program is just our initiative as a university to make sure that a lot of the jobs inside the campus, on campus, are not available for people outside the university. Like normal community people cannot apply for those specific jobs. Those are reserved for our students. So that's a
Wow.
great way of getting experience, but at the same time, it also pays them. So they can,
Hmm.
definitely utilize that funds to lower their financial liability, basically their living expenses and things like that. However, if you are lucky enough to get that on-campus job which is related to your field of study, I think that can as well serve as a training period for you. However,
Yeah.
if you talk about placement year, yes, that's a completely different scenario where we have some of our programs that come with an additional placement year. In that case, that's a full-time job. You do 1 year of study and then the next year you do your placement. So that's different.
Okay. Okay. So, some students are asking that if you could, they're saying that they are interested in masters in the UK. And can you please tell me what courses and programs are eligible for the 2-year post-study work visa? So, if you could talk about that.
Okay. Yeah, so the post-study work visa, which is the graduate immigration route, now that is something which is available for all. There's no one specific program that makes you eligible for it. So whether you're going for any undergraduate program, which is any bachelor's program at Essex, or you're going for any master's program at Essex, on successful completion of that program, you are eligible to utilize that 2-year post-study visa. If you are a doctorate student, which is a PhD student, then you get 3 years of that work visa instead of two.
Great, great. Um, and somebody was asking, about scholarships. I know Essex is quite, great when it comes to rewarding students, especially from India, for scholarships. So, if you could maybe talk a bit about the scholarships that are available, that would be great.
Yes. So we have, quite a different range of scholarships available for our undergraduate applicants. We have a £4,000 scholarship at the moment. Again, it depends. You need to be eligible for it. Basically, attaining a 75% in your class 12 in the best 4 subjects will make you eligible for it. Um, and for our master students, we have two sets of scholarships, £3,000 scholarship and £5,000 scholarship. Again, depending on where you graduated from, the university that you graduated your bachelor's from, and the scores that you have attained will make you eligible either for a 3,000 or a £5,000 scholarship. As far as the process is concerned, you do not need to apply for it separately. Once you speak to your advisor at Leverage and they get your file together and they submit your application, the moment we see when we're reviewing your details, we see that you have attained so and so score in a specific from a specific university, you automatically get uh, basically listed for that specific scholarship. And hopefully when you get your offer letter from the university, it clearly mentions if you're eligible for the scholarship, and if yes, what is the amount of scholarship you're eligible for. Read your offer letter very carefully. Sometimes student tends to miss it. It's usually at the bottom of the first page. And another scholarship information that I would like to add is for our MBA students. So the admission process for MBA is slightly different than the other programs. MBA program applicants will also require to sit for an interview, usually from someone senior from the business school that will take their interview. It's usually a 25 minutes long interview, and based on the performance of that interview, you become eligible for the Dean's Excellence Award, and that award can go from anywhere from 10% waiving of your tuition fee to 100% as well. And believe me, we have had students who have got 70% scholarship, and we've also had students who have got like a full scholarship as well. So you performing well on that interview, they look into your entire profile. Again, you need a full-time work experience, minimum of 3 years to apply for MBA, or or more. So MBA is slightly different, but yes, we do have quite a range of scholarship available for both the undergraduate as well as postgraduate level.
Wow, that's great. So yeah, I think the 3,000, 5,000 pound scholarship is, I think that's amazing initiative. I think, and the ease, I've seen how easy it is. How seamless it is to kind of apply for it, and you don't really need to apply for it, and you kind of get the scholarship directly deducted from your tuition fee, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Um, when it comes to the MBA scholarship, is that something? which only gets decided after you give the interview. So do you only find out whether you have been awarded it after the interview? How does that usually work? Like,
Yes, yes. So the MBA scholarship is completely, so basically they look into your entire profile. First of all, you need to, like I mentioned, I feel like I'm mentioning it again and again, but it's part of the process. So you need to have that work experience full time to apply for the MBA. So if you are eligible, you apply, you submit your application, and after that they get back to you, letting you know that you have a specific day and a specific slot for your interview. Then you appear for the interview, and based on that interview they let you know how did that interview go, whether or not you got the admission. If you got the admission, that's great. On top of that, they will let you know if they liked your performance on that interview and if you are eligible for any percent of the Dean's Excellence Award.
great. So I think the next question is very important and very relevant to today's time. So it's to do with the ongoing pandemic. And I think what student has asked is that what all campus services are currently available at the university, and also if you could also elaborate on how the teaching is currently going to be happening for the coming intake.
Okay, yeah, thank you for that question. So yes, all the essential services that a student require, or our faculties and our university community requires, are open at the moment. For instance, you talk about the grocery stores, they are open. You talk about the restaurants and food joints, they are open as well. However, we do have to keep the social distancing in mind, but they are open. We have our library, which is open for our students. We also have our tech team in place. Our tech team is still functioning and they're working. And then we, of course, have our medical team, our medical services there. They're constantly working for, regular testings being done, vaccinations being rolled out. So these are some of the departments that are open at the moment. As far as our learning mode is concerned, we are currently going for a blended delivery. So blended delivery, again, it does not mean that students are doing like online classes. Blended basically means that looking into the situation, if we have smaller classes with smaller number of students, they are doing a face-to-face class right inside the classroom with the faculty in place, because that way it's easier for them to maintain a social distance and still do a class inside the classroom. However, we have a few modules or a few subjects where we have large number of students coming in. In that case, we are opting for an online delivery of that specific class. That means students will be in their room and they're basically logging on to complete that specific class. So that is what's being done by, what is meant by blended delivery. And when it comes to October, we are again really, depends on what the government rules out. But we are very positive on having a face-to-face class being done in the month of October and having our students back on campus. However, uh, I think it's really important for all of us, including me, to understand that whatever is being done is for our safety of our students, safety of our faculties, and our university community. So we all love to, see our students back on campus, and that is
Yeah.
what's our, first priority. But keeping the government guidelines in place, most likely a blended delivery. But yes, we will have face-to-face classes in October. So students joining us in October, you can very well be prepared for your, on classrooms being done.
Great. Could you maybe also elaborate a bit on the current guidelines on how students uh, are supposed to reach the university? Like if they're supposed to take any sort of test before flying, or are there tests happening on the campus? Is it a requirement to be vaccinated before traveling? I mean, could you just elaborate on some of the uh, government guidelines, as well as maybe some of the initiatives that the University of Essex is doing for the next decade?
Right. Yeah. Thank you for that question. So, yes, when it comes to the current, at present, what's been going on, again, it's very uncertain. Things can change in a week. Things can change by the time our students are flying out. But at present, the UK government has made it mandatory for our students from India, because India is on the red list. Red list does not mean the students can fly out. They can absolutely fly out. Student visas are being issued and they can fly out. However, it basically means that they need to take care for the first 10 days. So they need to be isolated in a government approved hotel. They need to be there, and once they are inside that hotel, they will be tested for COVID on the second day of their arrival, and again on the 8th day. On the 8th day, if they are tested negative, they are free to leave the quarantine in 10 days, and they can be on campus. They can, if they're going for on-campus accommodation, they are welcome to come to their room. However, when it comes to initiative being done, yes, we apart from doing the regular testing, we are doing very frequent testings on campus, and we are also making sure that social distancing is maintained. That's why we have opted for blended. So in cases where we have large number of a possibility of large gathering being done, we are then doing it like a online class for that specific module. But we have also decided to reimburse our students for the quarantine charges. So if you know that staying 10 days in a government approved hotel is going to charge them somewhere about 1750 pounds. So we, University of Essex, have decided that we'll be reimbursing our students that specific charge.
Wow, that's superb news for students. So yeah, I really hope they are able to get this message. Besides that, some of the other questions are, um, one person has asked that if the University of Essex is accepting any other English language certificates, so do you guys will you guys be accepting Duolingo, for example, as most IELTS centers are currently closed in the country?
So Duolingo, no, we are not accepting Duolingo as a proof of English proficiency. Yes, we do, when we talk about other ways of waiving that specific requirement would be your medium of instruction, like I mentioned earlier. Again, this would again not be applicable for all. It would be for tier 1 students and when they were graduating, within the last 5 years. Apart from that, can you repeat that question? What was the second part of that question?
Yeah, I
Sorry.
mean, if there's any, I think we've already covered some of it. So I think we've spoken about the English language alternatives
Yeah.
options available. So
You
we
can
did
go for
speak.
Pearson. Yeah, you can go for Pearson.
Right.
And for IELTS, I'm pretty sure that you're still having the home-based test. You can do that as well. Again, if you have any questions about your specific profile, please feel free to reach out to your advisor at Leverage. I'm sure they'll be able to assist you. We can then, also look into your profile, and we can do whatever it's possible to, make it easy for you. But Duolingo, again, not accepted by the university, but medium of instruction, yes. And as far as IELTS is concerned, please look up. I believe the home-based tests are being done, and you can do that as well and submit that specific score.
Right. Thanks. So I'm going to go back to some of these because there are a couple more questions in regards to the COVID situation. So I thought maybe I could ask a couple more of them together so that we could close this topic. But one of them is it possible for international students to quarantine at the University of Essex rather than the hotels? So I mean, you did mention that obviously you guys would be, reimbursing the quarantine cost at for students who are going to be staying in these hotels. But is there any guideline, or is there a possibility that maybe by the time the intake starts, that maybe students could quarantine on campus, or is that not a discussion that's happening?
Okay, so it's actually the UK government that has made it mandatory for students from red list countries to, serve the quarantine in a government approved hotel and not the campus. If things change and things are relaxed from the government side and they allow students to be quarantined on campus, University of Essex, we are more than happy to have our students back on campus and serve their quarantine on campus itself. Because last year too, we have done that. And we are happy to do it again. But at present, it's the government that has made it mandatory for the students to be in a UK, government approved hotel and not the campus for their quarantine 10 days period.
Right. And is there any like clarity on maybe when face-to-face classes might be, like you mentioned, obviously there's going to be blended learning, at least that's the approach which the university is taking right now. But is there any clarity on when maybe face-to-face classes could start, considering that I think a large part of the UK is now vaccinated?
Vaccinated. That's right. So, technically, UK has been very successful as compared to many other countries when it comes to the implementation of the vaccination program, and majority of it of their population have been, vaccinated. And to be honest, we are very, very positive to have face-to-face classes in the month of October. We are still doing it at the moment. It's just for those rare cases where the classroom students are going to be, in large numbers. For those specific classes, we are asking the students to do an online class. It doesn't mean that they are doing their entire, all their classes in a week online. They are going for on campus just to be, to be able to maintain a social distancing. We are just holding specific classes. Like for instance, if you have, four subjects, like four subjects that you do in a, in a specific week, then out of those four subjects, that there's one subject with one specific teacher that have a larger number of students. So that specific class would be online, because you have a lot of students inside that same classroom, so there is a possibility of not having that social distancing being followed. But the rest of the three classes are going to be students back on campus, doing a face-to-face class inside a classroom. But because we have one class which is online, we have termed it as blended delivery, but we are absolutely expecting our students to be back on campus. And as compared to various other countries, UK has never closed its borders from the very beginning. As from the time the pandemic started, UK has never basically closed the borders for our students, and we're still not doing it. And by extension, University of Essex is more than happy to welcome our students back on campus. So there is no restrictions at all.
That's actually another question. So somebody has asked that what if, because of the situation and the restrictions in my country, like what if they can't get in, what if they can't reach the university because of the current COVID-19 restrictions? Then how will that affect, their education? Like what is that something which you guys have maybe considered thinking about given? Um,
Right. So we've had a few cases there. So for instance, if a student coming from a specific country, be it India or any other country, they are not able to travel because of travel restrictions in their specific, home country. So in that case, we are being very flexible. That student can directly opt for a blended delivery. They can do their classrooms from home. And we have been very successful in transitioning our teaching method to the online platform. So our students can actually, complete most of their modules on, at home. And as soon as the travel restrictions in their home country is lifted, they're free to come back. They will be treated the same, and they will have access to all the student services on campus. So they will not be, basically discriminated just because they're doing their classes online, because they're doing it for a specific reason, to keep everyone safe. So they will have access to all the student services. They can do as much of their modules from home, and as soon as the travel restrictions eases, they can fly back to campus.
And in the event that if a student is not able to reach the campus for any sort of reason, and was to do the online learning from his home, how would that affect his eligibility for the post study work visa? Does that have any implications?
No, the on successful completion of the program, as long as they are a Essex student, they will absolutely be, eligible, and they will have the right to apply for their GIR, which is the graduate immigration route. One thing that they should remember is, if a student is not allowed or not able to travel, please keep the university on the loop. Let your professors know, let the international department know. Just keep us informed, so that way we know that why this specific student has not traveled and have been doing their classes from home. And as soon as they are able to have a successful completion of that specific program, they will be, allowed to apply for the GIR. That should not impact their placements or their post-study work visa.
Okay. So I'm gonna ask a couple more questions. Somebody has asked. Um, I think somebody's asked a pretty similar question, so we can actually connect it with the one which we just answered. So it's somebody's asked that I am currently enrolled at the University of Essex, and I finished my first year, I guess, in the distance learning mode. Am I eligible for placements offered by the University of Essex?
Absolutely, absolutely. As long as he's a student of the university, he will be, eligible to, apply for the placement opportunities.
Great. So I think somebody has a question about accommodation, which maybe we have not touched at. So if you could maybe explain like what kind of accommodation does the university offer, and generally what is the process to apply for accommodation? And yeah, I mean, is Essex near London? I believe there are various campuses, right? So then I'm guessing
We're
the
very close to
accommodation would,
central London. We are just 45 minutes away from central London. So we
okay.
have a lot of our students basically traveling on weekends. You know, in the pre-COVID era, they would usually be in London on weekends.
Oh, wow.
If you take the train, it's just 45 minutes away.
Okay.
Um, so
So
coming back
this
to your question,
is that the Colchester campus, or is that the?
the Colchester campus, but even the other campuses are very, easy reach from central London.
Okay, okay, okay,
Yeah.
great, great. Yeah, so coming back to the earlier question, what kind of accommodation does the university offer, and how can somebody apply for it?
We have some really good options when it comes to student housing, our accommodation. So, all our campuses, Colchester, South End, all the campuses have accommodation options. When it comes to the kind of facilities we offer, so we have both en suites as well as non-en suites. So I'm sure most of the students are aware, but just to make it clear for students, someone who may not know. So if you talk about en-suite rooms, would that basically mean that you have a personal washroom or a bathroom for yourself. So we have both options available. We have students which are very budget friendly. I mean, we have rooms which are very budget friendly, as well as we have other fancier options as well. It really depends on your preference and your ability, the kind of budget you have for your accommodation, because you're also spending for your education. So if you want to go for budget friendly options, you have that available as well. If you want to go for a little bit more fancy, we have fancier options available as well. Majority of our rooms would have an option of sharing your kitchen with other roommates, other flatmates. And I think that's a great opportunity, because the whole idea of going to a different country to do your education, apart from the excellence, the kind of quality of education you receive, is also understanding different culture and meeting people from different areas or different parts of the globe. So I think sharing a kitchen, and even if you're cooking your own food, I think just the concept of a community kitchen wherein you sit down together and maybe you're eating your own kind of food, but just exchanging views and having people around, I think that's a great option. Apart from that, as far as the process of applying is concerned, once you apply for your admission, you get your offer letter, you formally accept that offer letter, you pay your deposit, which is usually a £1,000, and you confirm your place. Once you confirm your place, you are basically eligible to apply for your accommodation. You just go on our website, type accommodation, it will take you to the specific link and you're able to do it. Just remember that you need to first accept your offer, confirm your place, and then you become eligible to apply for the accommodation.
Okay, great. Um, Also, somebody has asked that if they have not received, I have not received my final mark sheet from my previous college, and I think maybe undergraduate students could be facing similar problems where they have not maybe received their final mark sheets. So, can they apply for the programs at University of Essex? And secondly, in case somebody is having any issues with that, then how do you recommend that they should go for about this?
Yes, so for students who, do not have their final year mark sheets, we are trying to be as flexible as possible. So those students can actually apply, submit their application by submitting whatever last mark sheets that they have. So if they're in their 8th semester and they have their,
Oops, sorry.
yeah. So if, for instance, if they don't have their last year, their last year scores, but they have their previous year scores, submit all those application to your advisor and they will submit and complete the application for you. And once you have your final mark sheet, you can always add that to your file later as well. As far as, those situations are concerned wherein some exams have been canceled altogether. In that case, if you're from a CBSE board, we will be following the marking scheme, the scheme that CBSE will release. And if you're from any other board, we will basically assess your ability, your profile, based on your overall performance as well as your predicted score. So that's how the admission, would take place. But to answer it shortly, if you don't have your final year mark sheet, that does not stop you from submitting your application. Whatever mark sheets you have up till now, submit all of those and submit your application. And when you get your final year mark sheet, you can always ask your advisor to add that to your file, or you can edit yourself as well through the Essex portal.
Okay. They can apply. There's no problems in applying without your final mark sheets. Will there be any problem in the event that say they have to travel, like, or they go to start applying for the visa and maybe they have still not got their mark sheet? What
Yeah.
would you recommend in that sort of scenario?
Okay. So, for instance, let me explain it this way. So, if a student has applied, he doesn't have the final year mark sheet and he has applied with the, whatever mark sheets he had at the moment. So, in that case, this university will give him or her, if that specific student is eligible for an offer, they will give them a conditional offer. Okay. So, and that condition would be that on successful submission of your so and so mark sheet or successful submission of whatever remaining documents is required. Now, if the student is not able to fulfill that condition because maybe the university has canceled their exam altogether or have postponed it, in that case it's going to be something that we will internally assess our students based on their overall performance as well as their predicted score, and that's how we're going to move forward, because we are trying to be flexible, because we understand we are from our team is based in India and we are here for students from India, and we understand the kind of crisis that our country has gone through for the pandemic. So we are trying to be flexible. We're trying to support our students and not make things more difficult. However, having said that, we have to follow a specific guideline, a specific protocol. So if they get a conditional offer, they fulfill that condition, they're free to apply for they get their CAS and they get their visa. However, if for those rare cases where the exam has been cancelled altogether or it has been postponed and there is no way that the student can have that document in for the October intake, in that case we will internally assess that profile and see if we can give them an unconditional offer. In certain cases they can also request for a deferral wherein they can go for the January intake as well, but I would say the first option is better, to just let us know that it's not possible for me to get that final mark sheet because of so and so reason from my university, and we will request our team to assess them internally, their profile, and get them an unconditional offer if possible.
Great, great. That's amazing. So I think one student has asked, like, what are the opportunities there for international students at the University of Essex, and if you could also explain about the culture, the student cultural experience that probably people would experience if they enroll at the University of Essex.
Yeah, actually, thank you very much for that question. I think it was one of my favorite questions that I went through. So basically, University of Essex, we have, I think I will answer this question by saying that we are top 4 in the UK for our international outlook. So international outlook, we are top 4 in the entire UK, and this is basically determined by 3 factors. One is our domestic and international student ratio. So how many domestic students are studying, how many international students are studying at a specific given academic year, or how many domestic to international staff ratio or faculty ratio, and of course our research collaborations. So in all of these 3 areas, University of Essex have done really, really well. We are extremely friendly and approachable as far as our international community is concerned, and that includes not just our students but our faculties as well and our other university staff as well. So yes, being top 4, you can imagine the kind of vibe or the kind of culture you'll experience once you're on campus. Apart from that, if you talk about facilities, we have various student communities. Now, we have, I think, 100 plus student communities wherein you have, basically a group of students working together on likes and dislikes, things that they enjoy, things that are similar to their culture where they're coming from. We have students from 158 nationalities. And at present, I believe we have about 15,000 students on campus, enrolled as an Essex student. And yeah, and for our Indian students, we have our Indian student community as well, and they do a lot of things that make them feel at home even if they're in the UK. Like we celebrate all the our national festivals, like be it Diwali or Holi or any other festivals. We also have a Nepalese community, wherein we have students from Nepal that are all together. They are together and they are basically sharing ideas, doing various kind of events, again keeping the COVID norms in place. They are doing various things to kind of feel at home even when they are on campus. So I think they'll really like it there. It's just a matter of once getting introduced to these people and these community, they'll feel very much at home.
Great. I think even the campus looks very nice. I think the background which you are which is there on the screen.
Right.
Is that, can I just ask, is that the Colchester campus, or is that?
Yes, it is the Colchester campus, and it is actually, right now this is a wallpaper because, of course, I'm not being able to be there. But hopefully, yes, once things eases, we'll get an opportunity to be on campus. But yes, that's the lake, and that's one of the most favorite places for our students. They usually like to hang out there during summer because Uh, the summer vibe is very good there, and whenever they are not having classes, they are usually preparing or just hanging out at that back campus around the lake. So and I would recommend all the students who are attending this session today, please feel free to visit our official YouTube channel. You will get like a virtual tour as well. You can do the virtual tour on our website as well, but if you want something additional to that, please visit our YouTube channel. You will be able to see a lot of different parts of the campus that I think you'll find interesting.
Great idea. So I'm just wrapping up some of your last few questions. I think so. One student has asked if they can. I mean, this is quite a good question actually. Is it advisable for a student to, maybe if somebody wants to apply for more than one course, is that something which can be done? And then the follow-up question would be, in case somebody does do a course or enroll in a course, then are they able to change, the course while they're at the university before the commencement of classes? So yeah, so the first question is, can we apply for more than one?
Yes, a student is allowed, to apply for more than one program at a time. And I believe we can apply about 3 programs at a time. So yes, they can absolutely do that. And as far as change of programs are concerned, it's not a no. So they can definitely, request for a change of program. However, my recommendation would be to do that. First of all, try and make up your mind when you're submitting the application. That reduces the effort of your advisor as well as the people from the university reviewing your application. So it's advisable to be sure at the very first go. However, life happens and you can change your mind, so that's okay. But try and change your mind, and I mean basically make up your mind before your CAS is issued, because the issuance of the CAS is a 3-month long program. It's a 3-month long, I mean, not program, a process. And if you get a CAS for a specific program, and instead of applying for the visa, you're now requesting the university for a change of program, what happens is we're going basically 3 months back to the initial process. So it's a little bit more time consuming, and it becomes late for you. If classes are starting in October and you're changing your mind after your CAS, that means you're going to go through a time crunch. So it's advisable not to do it after the CAS is issued, but if it is absolutely necessary, please do it. We will look into it and we will do all that is possible to issue you a revised CAS at the earliest. But try and make up your mind at the very first go. Otherwise, at least before the CAS is issued.
Thank you. So given that students may still be interested in the September intake, and we are already almost touching July, could you maybe explain to us if it's still possible for students to make it for the September, October intake? How fast will the university get back to the student with an offer, and will they be able to make it to the university on time, or should they consider January? I think maybe if you can.
No, so I would say they need to apply right away. So as soon as we get off the webinar, they need to start working. Of course, today is a Sunday, so don't disturb your advisors today, but maybe first thing in the morning tomorrow, get in touch with your advisor at Leverage and submit your application. Whatever documents you have at the moment, get that together, get your SOP together and submit it right away. And especially because we've been working with Leverage for so long, we will try our very best to get back to them and basically reduce the turnaround time to get them a decision. But yes, it is still possible for the October intake, because again, it's not a September intake class. We start in the month of October, so we do have some additional time. So you can, if you're planning to join us in October, you can do so. Submit the application, maybe first thing in the morning tomorrow.
Great. So one more question is, if somebody has taken their IELTS test in 2020, so is it still valid? And can I use the score to apply at the University of Essex?
2020, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. They should be, they can use that score for applying.
Okay. I believe that like Essex is up is I mean I know the IELTS expiry date is usually up to 2 years, um,
Um,
and I
yeah.
think for this intake I think that Essex has also been slightly more accommodating in the sense that if somebody has got an IELTS which is expired, I think a year prior to that also I think maybe that could be useful, right?
Yeah, so we're at the moment still accepting IELTS, which are 3 years old as well. So generally, it's a 2 year expiration. However, for us, trying as we're trying to be more flexible and trying to give our students that little bit of that extra assistance,
Hmm.
an IELTS from the year 2020 should be still valid, and you can submit your applications with that score.
Great. So I think we're almost at the tail end of the session, but I'll just ask a couple more questions just to close. I think one question which maybe students would be having in mind. So we spoke about the cultural experience and the fact that obviously students will be having experiencing the blended model of learning. In some cases they'll be allowed to interact. Um, but what about like students who are, like how do students kind of meet each other on the campus? Is it allowed? Are you allowed to make a friends? How is it kind of, what is the situation right now? If you're living in a, student housing, so is there any restriction in that regard, or are there like outdoor open areas where students are allowed to kind of maybe work with one another? Could you maybe explain something of that sort?
Yeah, so if you are fully vaccinated, if you're fully vaccinated and you are allowed to basically take off your mask and meet in smaller groups, but again you need to be cautious. You need to basically know whom the kind of people that you're interacting with, because you never know this. Even if you're being vaccinated, you need to keep your health as your priority. However, yes, student accommodations is a great opportunity because, like I said, uh, you might have restrictions in sitting in a classroom, in a close packed classroom without masks, because that increases the chance of the infection. However, if you're in the same accommodation building, you are going to have people from the next door and people that you're going to basically meet at the lobby, in the kitchen, and that's how you're going to make friends. However, we also have the student communities. They are finding various uh, innovative methods to still connect. So you can always maybe, if you are someone from India or, for instance, Bangladesh, you have Indian community, or from Nepal, you have the Nepal community, or you have the Bangladesh community. These group members have Facebook groups, they have WhatsApp groups, so you can get to know each other, you can make friends, and keep in touch. And once the norms and the restrictions eases, they are going to have various kind of events and various opportunities where they can interact. However, if we have students who are maybe struggling or going through a hard time settling there, we also have our counseling services. Please reach out the international office, reach out to the medical team. They will have various opportunities for an outlet to discuss things. And again, we have our team in India as well. They can reach out to us on WhatsApp. I mean, it doesn't mean that if a student is here, they only ask questions to us just for the admission, and once they're on campus, they can't reach us out. Absolutely not. They're more than welcome to, maybe reach out to me as well on my WhatsApp or my other team members. I'm sure they won't mind. They have anything to share, they can do that. Otherwise, they can also go for the student counseling services if they are feeling lonely or they're feeling a little low.
Hmm. Yeah, that was my other question. Is that I think this is also the last question. I think before we end the session. So I just wanted to understand. I think maybe some students and maybe some parents would wonder if NHS is would be covering any like in case of any medical expenses the student may have. Is that covered under the NHS? And secondly, what kind of medical services are there on the campus? And are you carrying out vaccination programs for students who are unvaccinated or not been able to access it? I think this we can probably close with this last question probably.
Right. So I think this takes me back to the one of the other areas as well, which is the UKVI norms for the flying out. So as per the latest updates that we had an interaction with UKVI, they ask you to be vaccinated. Okay, so they again, whether or not you need to be vaccinated with both the doses, again, this is something a little bit more technical, and they can reach out to the UKVI website for more. But to our understanding, they need to be vaccinated and carry your vaccination certificate with you. And you also need to have a negative COVID test 72 hours prior to you flying out. That's the first requirement. However, as far as yes, you do pay your medical, the charges that we mentioned. So that definitely covers your health issues. And once you reach to the medical team, they can give you like a detailed understanding of what all are covered. So anytime a student is feeling unwell, their first go-to should be to go to their university medical teams, because they will, make sure that you have a proper appointment with a specific proper doctor, and, basically hand out the medicines. You have a pharmacy inside the campus, so you can get your medicines from there. Apart from that, yes, we are also, again, based on the government norms, if it is required to have additional doses of vaccination, Essex have decided to roll out a free vaccination initiative for our students as well, so they can get vaccinated. And what else? Yeah, vaccination and testing as well. So we're doing very frequent testing. So if a student requires to do testing on campus, they can do so, because our
Great,
medical team is working on campus at the moment.
great. And the NHS would cover any
The
kind of
vaccinations, yes, correct.
vaccinations, or even if like somebody wanted to see a doctor, I think
Yes.
NHS does cover international students, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, so because they're paying for their health insurance. Now, again, like depending on case-to-case scenarios, for instance, if a student is unwell and they go to see a doctor, that's included, that's part of the medical services. However, if you have something additional, you need to see some additional external doctors, you need to get some additional procedures being done, that might add up a specific fee. Those technicalities or those details will be explained to the student very clearly once they arrive and they meet the medical team. In case they don't understand something, they will repeat it again and they'll explain them in simpler words as well. Otherwise, they can always reach us out as well, and we'll, assist them on that specific, case.
Great, great. So I think that answers most of our questions. So I just wanted to thank you for being with us today and answering all those questions. And I think most of the students who would definitely see this would be very intrigued, I'm sure, to apply to University of Essex. And I'm sure a lot of their doubts have been cleared and clarified. So thank you. And I think with this, we can probably close the session.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I think I had a great time answering these questions. But yes, if you have any additional questions, we are not restricted to just this webinar. You can feel free, reach out, ask your questions to your advisor, or reach us out as well. I'll be glad to answer any other question that you have.
Yes, yes, they should just give Leverage a call straight away. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Bye.